Hey listeners, thanks for tuning in. If you're enjoying Speaking Soundly, please consider supporting our work with a tax-deductible donation. You can easily contribute on our website at artfulnarrativesmedia.com/donate. Click the link in the show notes of this episode, or you can follow us on Instagram at SpeakingSNDLY and get all the information there. Either way, every donation, no matter the size, helps us keep bringing you inspiring conversations with remarkable artists. So thank you for your continued support. We really appreciate it. Be sure to check out slippeddisc.com for the latest inside information on classical music now. Grammy-nominated Mexican composer and this season's Carnegie Hall Debs Composer Chair, Gabriela Ortiz is renowned for her vibrant compositions that celebrate and transcend musical traditions. Her creative process is guided by trust and intuition.
I trust in my ear, and my ear is my tool. So I know that, okay, I want to take this risk, but I think I'm going to get it. Even if I don't know where I'm going, I know that I'm going to arrive safely.
You're listening to Speaking Soundly, a backstage pass to today's biggest stars of the music world. I'm your host, David Krause, principal trumpet of the Metropolitan Opera. During each episode, you'll hear me speak with inspiring performers about their creative process and the personal journey that led them to the stage. It's great to be speaking with you here at Carnegie Hall, and I'm so excited to finally get to play one of your pieces here on stage later this season with my orchestra, the Met Opera Orchestra, which will be the last of, I think, 7 performances of your work here at Carnegie this season. It's always a thrill for me to play something new alongside works that I played a lot. And your works are often programmed side by side of masterpieces by Dvorak, Mendelssohn. What's it like for you as a composer to juxtapose your new compositions with repertoire that audiences know and have grown to love over time?
You know, at the beginning of my career, it was overwhelming. I remember once, one of my pieces was paired with Beethoven and Wagner. And the publicity was, my photo along with Wagner and Beethoven. That was really, my father said, oh, really good company in this concert. So it was really hilarious to see my photo with Wagner and Beethoven. But now you will have audiences that probably they are going to listen to Beethoven, but suddenly they have a new piece on the same program, which gives you opportunity to build new audiences and get more interest in new music. So I think it's really good when you combine a new piece with a very famous piece.
Familiarity with any piece of art tends to deepen the experience over time, but nothing can replace hearing something for the first time. What do you hope audiences come away with after the first hearing of any of your pieces?
Get more interested in new music. Be open. I mean, when you're going to go to a concert and you know that it's going to be a world premiere, wow, nobody has heard the piece before, and you're going to be part of that. Every time I think about what would you like to do if you have the chance to live in the past, for me, to be at the premiere of the Rite of Spring. I mean, that really, complicated and controversial premiere that everything didn't understand what they were listening to. So I think that, what I expect from the audience is to get something from the experience by listening to my music, just to feel, just to enrich your spirit, just to enrich your soul. If someone is touching you, even if you don't understand that, it's important. It's about feelings.
I love speaking with composers because I'm fascinated by your abilities, or any artist's ability, to make something out of nothing. An idea will pop into your head, and from that, you can build a symphony. What inspires you to compose, and how do you go about organizing those thoughts into notes on a page?
It's a very interesting question because every piece, the process is very different. In my case, sometimes I want to explore something really musical. I want to try this musical idea. But sometimes I get inspirations from a poem, from a painting, from a novel. So It really depends on the project. But something that it's very magic is that I also use my intuition a lot. Even if I don't know where I'm going, I know that I'm going to arrive safely. I don't know how to explain that feeling, but I trust in my ear, and my ear is my tool. So I know that, okay, I want to take this risk, but I think I'm going to get it. Even if I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it, I know that I'm going to get it there.
Was that trust built up over time as your technique as a composer grew, or was that always innate within you, that kind of self-assuredness?
I think it's a combination of everything. Yeah. Normally, the beginning is extremely important when I start a new piece. I mean, if the beginning is solid, then I know that I can keep going. But if the beginning is not solid or I'm not really sure about it, I better leave it.
So let's say you're on the beach and you see a sunset that inspires you. Oh, that's kind of cheesy. Let's say you read a poem and that really speaks to you, or you're wherever you are, whatever. When you're struck with inspiration, practically speaking, what happens? Do you write something down?
No.
No.
What I do is to think a lot. I think a lot. When I'm doing exercise, when I'm walking, I'm always thinking about something. Oh, that could work. That could be something. That could be, I dream. Sometimes I dream with sounds. So basically, when I'm going to start a new piece, I already think a lot before I go to the piano. I already have like an idea or a mood or an atmosphere that I want to try.
Wow. When was the first time you realized you had this ability to transform a thought into music?
When I was 11 years old. I studied in this elementary school, which was very, very interesting. By the way, our new president, Claudia Sheinbaum, she studied at the same school as me. Wow. So that's to give you an idea that, this school was very experimental, very open-minded. And I had a teacher. This teacher was a chemist, but also a musician. I remember that once he told us, this, music lesson is going to be about creativity. So I'm going to give you some instruments, and you are going to organize a team of students, and you're going to produce a piece of music. So for me, I remember that they gave us like a little xylophone, and then, the maracas and some bongos and little things. And immediately for me, that was like, okay, let's play this melody. And you're going to play, and immediately I was the boss of the whole thing. I mean, I was organizing like a little orchestra, like you're going to play this rhythm, and you're going to play this melody, and you're going to do this, and you're going to sing this. And then I realized how fun it was. And then I realized that I was able to create a melody out of the blue. And I love it. I simply love it. And then, this is really during high school, I started playing Bartók. Bartók was a very interesting composer to me. I mean, I like his music a lot. At the time, I was just playing, the normal repertoire, which is amazing. I mean, Mozart, Schumann, Bach. But suddenly, Bartók. Wow, it sounds different. And then I think that I felt a connection with Bartók immediately. That's how it started, really.
Wow. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that you have this cosmic connection with Bela Bartók, because his music is based in Hungarian folk music, and you grew up in a musical environment full of folk music because both your parents were members of
that's right.
Los Folkloristas. Am I saying that right?
Yes, Los Folkloristas.
It's a Mexican musical group dedicated to the research, execution, and dissemination of traditional Latin American music. What was it like growing up the daughter of two folk musicians? Was it just assumed that you would be playing an instrument as soon as you were old enough to hold one?
Well, yes. My father is always saying that since I was just even a baby, if they play sad music, I start crying. But if they play something fun, I would start laughing. I mean, he said that. I'm not really sure about it, but he used to tell me that, that I was always very sensitive to music, always, reacting immediately to something. And then, of course, I heard this music and I wanted to play the guitar and I wanted to play the bombo. And that's really how I started. But then my mother also studied piano. And then my mother told me, I've seen that you really like music. Why don't you start really learning how to read music? And then I started playing the piano, classical training. But obviously, my first contact with music was just playing folk music, and that was really incredible. However, my brother hated. My brother wanted to have an electric guitar. And we always have this big discussion that, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and I don't want to play folk music, and I don't want to play the folk music from Latin America. So there is always someone in the family that it's, we say the black sheep of the family. And at the moment, my parents were like, we have to learn our language and sing in Spanish and Latin America. No, I want to sing in English. I want the Beatles. He was always like getting the opposite. So if my father says, okay, I prefer chocolate, he said, no, vanilla. I mean, that sort of thing. So,
Right.
So yes, we have these discussions in our family.
It sounds like a really rich musical environment to grow up in. As you said, you were exposed to Western classical music early on and studied the piano. Who sparked your interest in classical music, and how did you balance or reconcile these two distinct musical worlds from your childhood?
It was very normal because I have to say, this is something important for the New Yorkers probably, because my grandfather, he was a doctor. But we are talking about 19th century and the beginning of 20th century. So he came from the north of Spain, from País Vasco, and they arrived in Guadalajara. And their family started a tequila company. So they were a very cultivated family. So they sent my grandfather to study medicine at Georgetown University. And my grandfather came to New York, and he saw Mahler conducting the New York Philharmonic in that
Gustav
famous
Mahler
concert.
conduct?
Yes.
No way.
Yes.
Wow.
That's the story. And then he came back, obviously as a doctor. He was a very cultivated person. He always loved classical music, a lot. My father was also an absolutely, fan and a very cultivated person of classical music. He used to work with the National Symphony Orchestra doing the broadcast, the concerts and everything. So classical music was very normal. So it was very normal in my house to hear Beethoven and then to hear something folk, and because music was always there, but classical music was also very important in my house.
You were also a very serious flamenco dancer as a child. Did you ever think you'd pursue that instead of music?
At some point, yes.
Really?
It was like for a couple of months that suddenly, there was this movie by Carlos Saura. It's called Carmen, and everything is about flamenco. And Antonio Gades was a really famous, important flamenco dancer at that time, and he had a school. So I said to my father, this is it. I'm not going to finish my high school. I want to move to Spain, and I want to be part of the company of Antonio Gades. Obviously, my father looked at me and said, over my dead body.
I bet it sounds better in Spanish, too.
Sí, sobre mi cadáver. That's,
Sí.
so, no, you won't do that. Why not? I mean, are you totally crazy? And then what's going to happen with your music? And I thought, oh, that's a good question. Yes, I love music too. So basically, yeah.
Right.
I mean, I didn't. But at some point, I remember having this conversation with my father, and he was like, what?
Well, thankfully for all of us, your formal music education did continue at the National Conservatory in Mexico City. How did that time shape you, and did you ever struggle to find your voice?
No, I think my voice was always there. But it was a difficult time, and I will explain that to you. After the Mexican Revolution, for the first time, we have this nationalistic, very strong movement in art in Mexico and in Latin America in general. This is when, Villalobos, Orginastera, Carlos Chavez, Silvestre Revueltas, all these composers, and all these major painters like Frida Kahlo, Diego Rivera, Orozco, no? So all this nationalistic style was very strong. But then in the 50s and in the 60s, we have, again, this modernism came to Mexico. And a lot of painters seriously broke with that style, became abstracts or, became very different. That happened also in music. Those, composers that suddenly they decided, no, I don't want to sound Mexican. I don't want to, or those painters, I don't want to paint sandias or watermelons and pineapples and, indigenous people. I want to become universal. So they broke with that. So the European influence was very, very strong in my country. So I grew up like many of my colleagues were trying to imitate a lot of European composers. And then I have to confess, I never fit into that aesthetic, never. So it was complicated because I was trying to do my own thing. And for the Latin Americans, I sounded too Latin American or too Mexican. I was criticized for that. And then I went to Europe. I remember going to Germany and had a very difficult time there, because most of the people, they didn't take seriously someone that was writing with rhythm, for example. That was too easy, or that was too literal, or that was too simple. And it was hard for me. But I always decided, well, this is me. I cannot write like a German composer because I didn't grow in Germany. I never ate sausages. I ate tortillas and tacos. For God's sake, it's totally different. We drink tequila, they drink beer.
As an instrumentalist, the process I went through to become a professional musician wasn't easy, but it was somehow a clear path. You practice a lot, you enter competitions, you take auditions, and you hope for the best. But I'd imagine the path toward being a composer is less defined and somewhat more perilous. What was your path like, and what was the biggest challenge you have faced so far along the way?
I have faced many challenges in my whole career. It's very difficult to say one challenge. Economically speaking, I think I did it well because, I resolved that problem by being full-time professor at the Mexican University. So that's something that I have to say because it was important. Well, it is important. So at least I was not worried to have a commission or not at the beginning of my career. At least I have a stability, a steady salary, and that somehow it helped a lot. But to build a career, yes, it was very hard in many moments of my life. And especially because you really need good performers. This is something very important for any composer. And sometimes that is not very easy. Especially in Mexico, that was very hard. My first orchestral piece, I was a student when I wrote it. Every time I went for a rehearsal with an orchestra, we have one oboe and 3 clarinets, 2 trumpets, and 3 strings. Okay. And the next week, we have 3 flutes, 1 trombone. It was always like so chaotic and never having like a full orchestra. So I was not able to hear my piece. So I went to a professional orchestra. I approached the Mexico City Philharmonic without any appointment, and I stayed there, and I asked, I want to speak with the Maestro Herrera de la Fuente. And then, do you have an appointment? No, I don't. Well, you have to wait because, he's in a rehearsal right now. I will wait. So I stayed there for, 2 hours or 3 hours, me with my score. And then the maestro came and, do you not have an appointment? Yes, but I've been waiting for, to speak with you. Okay, how can I help you? And I said, Maestro, I'm Gabriela Ortiz. I wrote this piece and I wanted to hear it. That's what I want. I need to hear this piece. He saw the score and he said, okay, we'll call you That's all he said. He didn't say I like it or not, or something, it looks nice or not. He didn't say anything. He said, okay, we will call you. 3 months later, they called me, they programmed the piece.
Oh my goodness.
But I did it in the tough way, you know what I mean? I mean, it's just by sitting there, and I was terrified, but I decided, well, I have to trust myself and I have to be there. Otherwise, I won't be able to hear this piece. And then because of that recording, you know, then when I applied for a scholarship to go to England, I was accepted in the major schools, Royal Academy, Royal College, Guildhall. Then I decided to go to Guildhall, but I got a place in the 3 major important schools.
Based on that?
I think, yes,
On
because that was my presentation score. So you know how important it is to have a recording when you are a young composer. It's extremely important.
Do you still have that recording?
Yes, I have, in a cassette. I think I have to make a digital version of that, but yes, I still have that.
You are this year's Carnegie Hall Richard and Barbara Debs Composer Chair. Your music will be featured across the Carnegie Hall season. Where are you when your pieces are performed? Will you be sitting amongst the audience or backstage or somewhere in your hotel room?
No, I always sit among the audience.
You're
I
in the
want
audience.
to hear the music. I want to hear the piece. Yes.
When you're in the audience, is there a greater feeling than seeing that transformation from a concept in your head to music that can actually affect and move people?
It's great. This is the most important moment of any artist. When you see that people is moving through your music, or people is saying something, you know, this piece changed my life, or thanks for writing this music. Wow. It's so important. It's a big journey, and you never stop. It's a non-stop learning journey. And sometimes I'm very depressed because, for example, if I sit in my studio, sometimes I'm totally like, I don't know, I can't compose, or my brain is like shut down, or, you know, that sort of feeling. And then I start getting nervous or getting depressed. It's a complicated process for any artist, but it's so grateful when you have that kind of experience. And then I start breathing like, it's working. I did my job.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Speaking Soundly. If you liked what you heard, please tell your friends about it. Help spread the word. And follow us on Instagram at SpeakingSNDLY. For more information, you can visit our website, artfulnarrativesmedia.com. If you're new to the show, you could go back and check out earlier episodes featuring Wynton Marsalis, Regina Spektor, Joyce DiDonato, Emmanuel Axe, and Rufus Wainwright, just to name a few. And tune in 2 weeks from today on January 21st as we hear violinist Colin Jacobson speaking soundly.